Today, we're going to actually learn about some fermentation. So fermentation is a wonderful traditional way to preserve fruits and vegetables, as well as many other things. Sourdough bread is included in fermentation as well. And today I'm going to share my recipe for Beet Kvass with you. And we're going to talk a little bit about what Beet Kvass is. Beet Kvass is a traditional Russian drink. In Russia, actually, they used to make their kvass with bread and other grains and things like that. But beets are a wonderful alternative because beets purify the blood. They've got tons of minerals and nutrients, and they also taste pretty good. You might have heard of people using beets for cleansing their system, but beets are amazing. And I just love getting my beets in with Beet Kvass, which is a fermented drink. And it's full of electrolytes because we're using salt and we're going to use some of my older Beet Kvass here as a starter to help it get going. And it's a wonderful probiotic for your body. As Hippocrates famously said, as we all know, let thy food be thy medicine. So here I've got some organic beets. We're in the dead of winter here in Idaho, and so these I had to get from the grocery store. But typically I love growing my own beets in the garden, and I make a lot of kvass during the summertime. And then what I do is I put it in cold storage, and I've got it for the rest of the year when I'm not growing my beets. This is a half gallon of Beet Kvass that I made last July, and it's just been sitting on my counter in a rather cool place. Our house is cooler, and it's done fine. I just been drinking it. It's just fabulous. So I just want to point out that everybody thinks you have to preserve with freezing or dehydrating or canning, and I do all of those ways of preservation too. But I love fermentation because to me it's one of the most traditional, beautiful ways to ferment or to preserve your fruits and vegetables. And if we run out of power or whatever, as long as you've got some salt or some old starter, you can ferment anything. And it doesn't require any extra skill or anything like that. I'm going to show you how easy this is. Beet Kvass, let's go ahead and I'm going to just take a little shot of this here. It is so good. It has a flavor that's tangy, savory, salty. Many people believe it's a good hangover remedy. It's full of electrolytes. It's excellent for your entire body. In fact, I'm going to challenge you, if you make this, try drinking some in the morning as you get your day going. I have a feeling you're going to just feel a little energy boost, and it's not unnatural or caffeinated or anything like that. It's just because it's so good for your body, and your body's going, thank you. All right, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to go ahead and make another half-gallon batch. So what I've got here is a little bit of filtered water, and we're on actually city water down here in town. We're up the mountain. We have well water, and with my well water, I don't bother filtering it. It's just perfect as is. But down here in the city, where you've got chlorine and you've got other chemicals going on, you want to be sure that you filter it out or let the water sit out overnight, or just use distilled water, because you don't want anything in your water that's going to kill the live organisms that are fermenting your vegetables in here. Fermentation is actually alive, and you're using the actual bacteria and yeasts from the plants to make your ferment go. This is a form of lacto fermentation. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm actually going to plan on using about 2 tablespoons of salt in this batch. And I've tried Beet Kvass with different amounts of salt, and I have discovered that, and I like to keep my salt intake low. I know people say, oh, you don't have to worry about salt, but I tend to hold on to water, and I also manage my high blood pressure naturally, so I'm very cognizant of what I'm putting in my body. And if you're interested in that video about what I do to manage my blood pressure naturally, I'll link it above, because I did talk about that. Keep in mind that's my own personal protocol, and what you might choose to do is going to be a little bit different than what I might choose to do, because our bodies are all different. So I've got my 2 tablespoons of salt in this bit of water, and I'm just going to let this sit as I cut up my beets. And I've got my water filtering over here in my Brita water filter. Someday I'm going to get a water filter that's much better, but I haven't done that yet because on well water we don't really need it. But now that I'm down in town, I have an excuse. So I've heard that the old Berkey water filters aren't even being sold anymore, and I guess there's a real story behind that. I was listening to another lady on another channel. I can't remember her name right now, otherwise I would tell you, but she was talking about how there are now other companies that you can buy water filters from. I'm just cutting the beets up into like little approximate 1-inch chunks, and I'm just going to drop them into this brine over here. Anyway, if you are interested, I would do a little Google search on that. And in the meantime, I'll go ahead and do a Google search too. So let me just say, these are organic beets. If they were not organic, I would be skinning them and being very careful. But these are washed, and I'm just going to go ahead and let the natural yeast and bacteria that's on the outside of these beautiful beets go to work. And if you do have to skin them, if you can't find organic beets, that's okay. The fermentation process will still work just fine. Now I want to mention too, your beet greens, you don't have to throw these away or compost them. These are amazing foods. You just chop them up and you can saute them much like you would spinach. Throw some feta cheese in there and some olive oil and really enjoy it. So I love beet greens. They're also full of nutrition too. Okay, chop this one up. All right, get this one chopped up. Yeah, I do love my beets, and Beet Kvass is amazing. I have other recipes on my website for different forms of kvass. I've got a golden beet and turmeric kvass recipe on my website at healingharvesthomestead.com, and I invite you to head on over there. There are hundreds of articles at healingharvesthomestead.com that I've written over the years on different aspects of homesteading and primarily herbalism, because I'm an herbalist and an aromatherapist. So there are hundreds and hundreds of articles on those topics. My favorite things to talk about besides this, which I haven't done any, I don't think I've done any fermentation videos on my YouTube channel before. But now that I have a working kitchen here, I'm really excited to be sharing some more about the skill, the traditional skill of fermentation with you. You'll see the beets are floating on top. They will sink to the bottom. That's because of the amount of salt that's in here. But once they do sink, the beets will probably fill this half-gallon jar to about where my finger is. It's a rough estimate. It does not have to be perfect. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is take this Beet Kvass that's been fermenting. The beets are actually still in here. Look how dark and gorgeous that is. I don't know if you can see how purple it is. It's just amazing. I hope you can, it's just this dark purple color. And as we know, the darker the colors are, the darker the purples, the deeper the reds, the more nutrition they have, the more anthocyanins and different kinds of things they have. So I like to ferment not only with salt. I could just use regular salt and let it go at that. I've done that before. But I like to speed up the process sometimes and just give it a little boost. So what I like to do is one of two things. You can use about 1/4 of a cup of liquid from a previous ferment, which is here. The probiotics that are in here are alive, so I can use this. You can also get yourself some whey. Now whey, and it's W-H-E-Y, is when you drain off your dairy products like yogurt, you're going to get this protein-filled liquid that has a lot of that same lacto-ferment bacteria and yeast that you want in your ferment, and they'll just help things get started. So what I like to do is I just get plain old yogurt, and I'll just line a strainer with some cheesecloth, and I'll just plop the yogurt in there over a dish or a bowl, and it'll just drip into that dish or bowl. So you can use whey if you want to as well. If you live in a place like Europe, you might actually be able to buy whey at the store that's raw. But I'm just going to dip in here, get about 1/4 of a cup, and add this to my new ferment. And eventually I'm going to go ahead and get a funnel out and start bottling this bottle up. But for right now, it's just fine the way it is. And I can refrigerate it if I choose to or not. And there you go. So now I'm going to go over there and get my filtered water. And I'm just going to go ahead and fill this up to the top. Right. I'll just go ahead and use this lid for now. Get a different one in a second. But I like to give everything a really good shake. All right. Nice. There we go. Now, this, I'm just going to set on the counter over here, and I'm just going to let it go. One thing I'm going to have to do on a daily basis is burp it. Okay. Now, if I wanted to, I could get one of those nipple airlocks or a regular airlock if you want to, and that releases the carbon dioxide that's in here and that needs to get released, because as these little organisms start breaking down the plant matter and fermenting in the liquid, they give off a gas, and that gas needs to be released or you're going to get some kind of explosion. Since I'm using a mason jar lid only, this is my most typical way to do my Beet Kvass, I just burp it once a day. I just come along and I just release it, and the gas goes and that's it. That's it. All you have to do. And you're probably wondering, how long does it take to ferment? So your Beet Kvass can usually be used after about 7 days of fermentation. However, if like me, you don't get around to doing anything with it, as I didn't with this batch of Beet Kvass, your kvass can sit on the counter for a very long time, months even. If it starts smelling off or you're concerned about it, then get it into a refrigerator, or if something happens and it goes bad, you can compost it. But as you can see, this is a very inexpensive drink. It's very delicious. You can just take a little shot a day. You can drink 1/4 of a cup a day. I've gotten my body used to even taking up to 1 cup a day. So go slowly at first, because like I said, it is full of probiotics, it's full of electrolytes, it's full of nutrition, and you just want to see how your body reacts to it. All right, that is how you make Beet Kvass. This is how you enjoy it. And that's a bit about fermentation. So if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. I've got a couple of free herbal gifts for you. I'm going to leave them in the first comment. I'll pin them there and also in the description. And again, enjoy your Beet Kvass. Have a good time with this. It's a lot of fun, and it's delicious, and it's healthy. And I have a feeling your family's going to like it. All right, I'm Heidi Villegas with Healing Harvest Homestead, signing off. I will see you in the next video, and please subscribe to my channel. All right, talk to you soon. Bye-bye.